Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
Where their fathers have prostate cancer, I had like a 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black people shit, baby fat, obesity, nutrition, and our Black kids. I'm your host, Christy Ferris. In a study done by the National Heart Association, it indicated that out of the 23.5 million kids and teens in the U.S., 1 in 3 are either overweight or obese. Why can't I say the word right now? Obese, yeah. But like most things in America, obesity doesn't affect all children equally. Because on average, 23.5 white male children and 29.2% of white female from ages 2 to 19 suffer from obesity, whereas 33% of Black males and 39% of Black female ages 2 to 19 are overweight or obese. Today, we have Noni Robinson, nutritionist and founder of Black Girl Eat, to discuss this growing trend and what we can do to prevent it. And as always, we have actress Janora McDuffie and Abdul Majid, the writer. What's up,
Hey, hey.
What up?
What's going on? Y'all doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good. You all right, McDuffie?
I am. Can you guys hear me? You probably
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you can? Oh, yay. Hey, I'm even better now.
That's a nice shirt you got on there, McDuffie.
What kind of shirt?
That's a nice shirt.
Oh,
Nice
thank
color.
you. This is my, I'm ready for a vacation. I need an island with some sun and some blue water shirt. Please now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, me too. So we'll make sure we're going to jump into these hot topics real quick, but then we're going to make sure we get to your tree. But don't forget to like and subscribe and share this week's episode. And if you'd like to join in on the conversation, please make sure that you click on the link in the chat, because we would love to hear from you. So with that being said, how did it say thanks from Christy Ferris? That didn't come from me. Because you have Christy Ferris under your name, Janora. We got 2 Christy Ferrises in the house.
I know they might not be able to handle 2 Christy Ferrises.
No, I love it. Okay, so this week, Kobe Bryant was inducted into the Hall of Fame. What a beautiful moment. His wife spoke about it. Paul Pierce was also into the Hall of Fame. Chris Bosh, Bill Russell, Lauren Jackson. So congratulations to everyone. What were your thoughts about, if you got a chance to see it? Because I only got a chance to see the clips and everything. What Vanessa was saying, his wife. What were your thoughts, Janora?
I actually got a chance to see a good portion of it live, which was really exciting because it was history in the making. And it was, I know Kobe Bryant is the main title or the headline of all of it, but every single person that they honored made a difference and blazed a trail. They had everybody from Tamika Catchings from the WNBA, the female amazing coach from yes, Kim Mulkey. Thank you, my wife, who is just right there because we worked together.
Yes,
from BYU, and in fact, she won 3 national women's championships from BYU. But they have a statue on their campus of everyone but her. Not everyone, but some of the other prominent male coaches in their system and history, except for her. But she was amazing. Michael Jordan escorted her to the stage. And another very important person for me in terms of my own journey and where I've been in the world is actually Tim Duncan. Because I know Abdul's going to talk all about Kobe. He's going to cover that and Kobe should always be talked about. He's an amazing man. And yeah, so I'm going to let you handle that, Abdul. But I'm going to just give a shout out real quick to Tim Duncan. So again, North Carolina, went to University of North Carolina, that's ACC. So Tim Duncan went to Wake Forest. But his story was amazing. He's from the Virgin Islands, never even picked up a basketball until he was 14 years old. And just there happened to be some like alumni event or something where some guys were on the island playing ball, saw him play. One of the guys was connected to Wake Forest and told the coach at that time to give Tim Duncan a look. So it's just very interesting, everybody's journey to wherever they are, wherever they end up. Because Tim Duncan doesn't have like this huge, larger than life personality, I think a lot of times outside of the court, he went under the radar. So just to learn in this beautiful Hall of Fame program that they had, just a little bit about him made me respect him more. So that is a really long story to say. I enjoyed the program. Thank you for asking, Christy.
Absolutely. How about you, Abdul? Man, pretty.
Yep. I wasn't gonna talk about Kobe Bryant, because I do believe Kobe Bryant deserved every flower that he's been getting praised by everybody. But when I think of guys like Chris Webber, who was also inducted. I think who's an amazing basketball player, the Phat Five. To me, he didn't really reach his full potential when he was at Sacramento, but he was an amazing player, just an amazing power forward. Guys like Kevin Garnett is an insane just basketball player. His enthusiasm for the game. But the real big one, the one I was the most proudest of for a multitude of reasons, was Bill Russell. Bill Russell wasn't inducted for being a player. He was inducted as the first Black coach.
Yeah.
So the Bill Russell things, I think people underestimate Bill Russell's talents and abilities because he was a player and he was a coach at one time. Player coach at one time. But he was the heart and the brains of that team. And I think a lot of times, especially when you look at athletics, and maybe something we may talk about with regard to the CTE thing in terms of when it comes to Black male athletes, they don't look at them as like intelligent. They just think we're all just brawn and athleticism and can jump and run. But a lot of these guys, Bill Russell being one of them, are the brains of the operation, and they don't get the credit that they deserve for being as intelligent and coming up with plays and being able to be an on-court general and being able to be the coach on the court when they wouldn't listen to the coach on the side. So kudos to Bill Russell and all the guys who don't, especially a lot of these basketball players. Kobe Bryant was one of them, who knew the X's and O's and knew the game inside and out, and don't get the credit for being as smart as they really are in their sport.
Well, our guest on the show said, Noni said, the truth, Bill is a voice for the Black community as well.
Yes, so, and he spoke up so much. Yeah. In Boston,
definitely.
as racist as Boston was, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course Paul Pierce being from Boston, he was there too as well.
KG, Boston, yep.
Yeah. So, hi, Janora. Since you brought up that whole thing, about just the Black men who are in football who are getting concussions. Did you want to talk about that real briefly, since we didn't have that on the list, but you can bring
Yeah,
that up.
there's a sort of not sort of, there's a class action lawsuit going on with the NBA with regards to CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, I believe it's pronounced, with just brain messing up the brain with head-to-head injuries, things of that nature. And one of the things that they've had for a long time is that
Yeah, NFL. You said NBA. I was going to correct.
sorry, yeah, NFL. I'm sorry, Robinson. The NFL is that they had a lower standard for black males had to have a higher standard of cognitive testing done to them because they believe that black men were dumber than the white players. So in order for the black males to get the money for CTE from the NFL, they're testing. They had to have a higher level of the testing, which is insane because they're pretty much just saying black people are dumber, so you couldn't tell if they had CTE or not because they were lower cognitively than the white players.
So basically, if you guys who are listening, I don't know if you guys saw that movie Concussion, the one that Will Smith did. And so all of these, football players are getting concussions. And now that they're trying to get, disability, trying to get money to help them out, they're not giving it to the black players because they're saying that, oh, well, we can't tell the difference between, is it the concussion or are you just dumb, period. And so that's why they're not giving it.
That's not paying. So there are more white players that are getting paid out of this fund that they after this lawsuit that they had. There are more white players getting paid out than the black ones because of the testing, because the testing standards for the white players and the black players were different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is racist as the NFL normally is. So
of course. Yeah, it is sad, Kimberly. It really is sad. So with that, we'll move on. Since Janera is back, we're going to go on to I don't know if you guys get a chance to see back in the day when Obama was in office, but Damon Weaver was a child reporter who interviewed him, but he died of natural causes at 23, according to his family. So, it was just it was pretty sad to see, just to hear about this at 23, such a bright kid. So, any comments from that, Abdul?
It's sad. They said it was from natural causes, and from what his sister said, he was in college, get a journalism degree, about to pursue his career as a journalist. I thought the whole "Do you want to be my homeboy?" question was cute from for the little kid asking the president that. I just find it sad that this is the second story I've heard about something like this where these kids are on the rise. There was a young girl in Chicago a couple of years ago who was also at the White House. I think she did a poem or something to that effect, and she also died, but it was a bullet. She died of a drive-by or something like that. There were gang shootings, and she passed away in the process. So I think it's sad, whether it be him or her or a load of these other black children in these communities who have talent and so much to offer, losing their life at such an early age. That's all.
Yeah, one of the things that he focused on his interview, if you guys didn't know, on education in the U.S. and included a suggestion that school lunches consist of French fries and mangoes every single day. So cute. Janora, your thoughts?
I wouldn't be mad at French fries and mangoes every day for lunch. Yes, God bless him in his life, and what a testament, even if it's 23 short years, that he left a mark. And I think it's a reminder to all of us that we do not know the hour or the date where we are to depart this place. So make it count. And so God bless him for leaving a mark, for having an opportunity to do what some people dream of doing. That question, you can interview one person in history or present, politician, celebrity. President Barack Obama is a popular answer to that question that fulfills folks' dreams. So for him to be able to do it and during his short 23 years on this earth. Yes, God bless him. And I think that's great. I think we should always not take for granted the time we have here. It is not guaranteed that we're going to live to 99. So do it while you can.
Yeah.
With you. What happened to my notes? I have my little notes already.
And while you are looking up your notes, I'll just say hey to Jasmine, who is in the house. She says hey to everybody here on BPS. And of course, Kimberly, I love when you check in. Her first comment was come to Jupiter. You guys might not know what she's talking about. She's not talking about the planet. She's talking about Jupiter, Florida, which is where she is checking in from in terms of traveling to a beautiful location. So beautiful locations are always better with your girlfriend. So Kimberly, I'm going to take you up on that soon.
I love it. So now I wanted to move on to the fact that there are some shows that have been canceled and some that have not been, that have been canceled and some that have been renewed. Some of the Black shows, Blackish, it was canceled. Black Lighting, Black Lightning, Mixish. And then, of course, we have some great shows that have been renewed, which was Black AF, Black Lady Sketch Show, yay! Grownish, Keenan, Last OG, Queen Sugar, Sisters, Woke. There's a couple of other ones that I had on my list, but somehow I lost my notes. What were your thoughts? Have you guys watched any of these shows? I know For Life was also canceled. That's another show, and All Rise was canceled as well. Who CBS? They had their Simone. She was the first Black woman to head a show on CBS. So I was really disappointed about that also being canceled. But your thoughts on that, Janora?
I think, some shows come, some shows go. We can never predict a tale, but as long as there are brown ones that are rotated in that circle of love and attention on network TV, I'll be okay. So I am sad to see some of them go. I will admit that I am not an avid TV watcher. I am more so an avid binger. So I kind of wait for them all to go on to a streaming platform so I can get that fix of just 12 to 24 hours of straight TV watching. But I am happy to see diversity on the network, on the airwaves. So let's keep it up.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Abdul?
I thought Mixers would go soon. It seems like after a while, when you start to do a spinoff of a spinoff of a spinoff, sometimes the third or fourth one tends to get watered down and it's not as good. And even though I did like Mixed Dish, I thought it was pretty good. I'm sad to see Blackish go because that was a staple. That was like this generation's Cosby Show for a minute. But it seems like a lot of these networks are having a hard time finding that balance with regards to Black shows in the space because Black people tend to are leaning towards, if you look at the numbers, are leaning towards streaming more than they are traditional television. So shows like For Life and shows like Mixed-ish and shows like Blackish that were on network television, they were getting the numbers because you can't, from what I understand that I know right now, you can't like binge watch the whole thing when they first come out. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you have to watch it.
But it's good to see that Black shows across the board are getting spaces in all avenues, whether it be a YouTube show or a Hulu show or a Netflix show, and then you got Paramount, they got their shows coming out. So I do like the fact that sad to see these Black shows going, but there's so many coming up the pipe. If you really look, even you got an All Black channel called All Black, which is Mahogany's on that channel. So I mean, so there's a lot of show Black shows that you can watch on a variety of networks and services.
Oh, I should show you the gift that they sent us in the mail.
You got a gift basket?
Yeah, I got a little like gift with some alcohol and some glasses and a whole bunch of nice little goodies. So, but what I see them eyes. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's great to see, a lot of these shows that got picked up, like Atlanta and a whole bunch of other ones. But we also, we're also sad to see some of these shows go. A couple of comments before we move on. Do you want to read those?
Sure, Jasmine. Hey, girl. She says, yes, I watch Grownish and Sisters. Nice.
Yeah.
We've got Rihanna. How you doing? Welcome to the show. She says, hello from London, CT. Monogamy. She's giving you a shout out over there. Yeah, we love that. And New London. I said London. New London, Connecticut. Hey. And Tyel, am I saying that right? Tyel. Onyx Channel is coming through Hulu also. That's exciting to know as well. And if I'm not, yeah, that's what's up. Welcome to the show to you too.
Yeah. And Rihanna, she does a lot of stuff. I used to, I've known her since high school. She worked at a school that I was attending to in high school. And so she does a lot of stuff with the youth, which is amazing. And so, yeah, big shout out to her. Tool. Okay.
Thank you for breaking that down. I love it. Where's that from, Tool?
Yeah, put that in the chat so we can see. Well, we want to get to our guest as we wait for him to tell us where he's from, all that good stuff. So our guest this week is a nutritionist and founder of the Black Girls Eat movement, which is set out to make a positive impact on the health and wellness of undeserved communities. Noni Robinson is a graduate of Lincoln University and has a doctorate in nutritional science from Howard University. In 2018, she founded Black Girls Eat to ensure that the scope of her work encompasses social justice as it relates to nutrition, health, and wellness. Please welcome Noni Robinson. Hi, welcome.
You're on mute, Malene.
And that was Martika.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Noni.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.
Thank you for being here.
How's my lighting? My lighting good? How's my lighting?
Turn to the left real quick. Look. All right, turn right. You good?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, you good.
You can
what
tell
up, Malene?
Right? Yeah, you could already tell they friend. So we wanted to just bring you on to just talk about the obesity that's happening with our young kids, and how can we get this resolved, and how did you start your whole entire organization? So we got a wealth of questions we're going to throw your way.
Sure.
Yeah. So how did you decide to get into this portion of nutrition for young kids?
Sure. So I have tons of years of experience in nutrition, but I found out what satiated me most was community nutrition, particularly working with Black and Brown communities, because we are underserved in terms of medical, receiving treatment. We are underserved in terms of having great resources. So I said, what can I do to help the community and inspire and educate? So I came up with this platform called Black Girls Eat, which is an online platform to inspire, educate for Black women and girls, brown women and girls, to have a safe conversation regarding our relationships with food. All of the health issues, health disparities that Black women are facing, it usually starts with what we're putting on our forks. So my hashtag is We Are Healthy AF, which stands for We Are Healthy as Our Forks. So I thought it would be a place where women felt inspired. Black women are killing the game in all areas of our lives. We are great partners. We are great sisters. We are great community leaders, doctors. We're in the White House. But why are we still making these decisions that ultimately don't fuel us, that aren't saving our lives? So it's not so much anymore about if you have access or education. If there are women that are highly educated that have access to foods, healthy foods, grocery stores that are still struggling with obesity and being overweight. Diabetes, high blood pressure. We all know someone, whether it's ourselves, friends, family, at work, that's taking some sort of medication that is nutrition related. So I said, what is it? Women aren't feeling safe to have these conversations. A lot of times our primary care doctors are not having conversations about nutrition, and we are not checking one another regarding nutrition. When we celebrate, it's around food and drinks. When we mourn, it's around food and drinks. So how do we change that? So hence Black Girls Eat.
So I got a question for you. So I've read in multiple periodicals about emotional eating, and you just spoke about women's or people's relationship to food. So can you tell me the connection between people emotionally eating and food? Like, what's the connection, and can you explain to our audience what that is?
So mindful eating is being intentional about our process of eating. So it starts with being intentional with your food list, being intentional with your shopping, being intentional with your preparation of the food and cooking. So a lot of, especially there's something called the quarantine 15, where people have gained weight during COVID, right? So people were lonely. People were scared about living. People were afraid to go outside. So how did we cope? We watched television, movies, we ate, we drank, we Zoom called, we FaceTime. So mindful eating is a technique I learned when I did research at Johns Hopkins to how to help people to lose weight. It's not a quick diet. It's all about processing. Am I hungry? How hungry am I? Am I full? How full am I? So that's what mindful eating is processing and being intentional about your choices around food, how much you eat, what you purchase, your planning. So that's what mindful eating is. And we found that has been successful with people with weight loss and has helped eradicate disease in terms of nutrition.
Go ahead, Janora.
Yeah, Noni, I think you were calling me out, sister, when you were talking about women who are educated but still choose to maybe put the wrong thing on the AF on the other end of the fork. So with your work, what are some of the solutions that you all are investigating and implementing to help a woman like me who knows better actually do better and choose better?
So it's all about planning, Janora. So also, I was in a situation where I felt a little stressed. 3 years ago, I was a daily Coca-Cola drinker, 2-3 times a day. It had to be a can, it had to be cold, it had to be at this time, and this time. So I said, this is no longer serving me. The sugar, the amount of calories, how it felt. So I slowly but surely, I went down to 2 cans, I went down to 1 can, and then I just cut it out. About last week, I was stressed out, and I hadn't done that in years. I was stressed out, and I had a small can of Coke. So I didn't beat myself up. But when I was trying to leave that habit alone, I was intentional every day in speaking to myself, right? So people are intentional with showing up for work properly. People are intentional getting their nails done, their hair done. So I think putting that on the forefront of your life, being mindful about your food choices, that's when the change begins.
So I have for instance, I think part of our issue is that we don't know. We don't know what we should be eating. And I have a friend of mine that had like a mild heart attack. And of course, this person was, I'm going to make the changes. But immediately went right back to the old habits of eating the same thing over and over because they don't know what they should be eating, how to make the change, how do I do the research? And a lot of times we get caught back up in life that we don't do the research that we need to do. How do we make that change?
So we have to reach out. We have to hold our primary care doctors accountable, also with our treatment, with our preventative care, and moving forward, making good decisions. No longer of the days of the food pyramid. We have to be more creative. We have to be intentional about our health. A lot of times people that aren't overweight or obese, they don't take nutrition seriously. You know, some people say I'm fine, right? But people that aren't overweight or obese have diabetes, high blood pressure, they have heart attacks as well. But you have to be ready to make that change. And food is also an addiction for people, right? So when people have a drug addiction, an alcohol addiction, a sex addiction, I can't say the word, a sex addiction, it's the same thing with food. So when people are ready to make that change, just like financial wellness, you have to be intentional with your finances, right? You have to be intentional with showing up for yourself, and eating healthy is most definitely a form of self-care.
So one thing that we didn't mention was that you actually worked with Michelle Obama in her program, the program that she was having for children. So in working with this program and in all your years of research, what did you find out about Black children specifically that they were gaining more weight than any other group of kids minus Native American, and like why are they such a high risk? Because some of the stuff that I've read says because of exercise and not being able to sports, and said food deserts because there's McDonald's and Burger King stuff. But what in your research did you come to the conclusion why our kids are?
So the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, which was passed by Obama in 2010, that's when they changed the food patterns for the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program, where they decreased the amount of sodium and sugar in school meals, in addition to increasing physical activity, increasing grains in meals. That's what the Obamas brought to nutrition and wellness for America. And I found that children needed more education around health and wellness, particularly in urban communities. If that is put more into the school system, as opposed to standardized test scores and learning for the test, they can't learn if they're not healthy, right? So children spend more hours, like we do, spend more hours at work, or they spend more hours at school than they do at home. So they have to be in an environment that celebrates health and wellness. Increasing that physical activity time, right? Increasing that time related to nutrition. A lot of children don't know that there is something called a fresh pineapple. I learned that with working with the Let's Move program and the National School Lunch program. There are things they don't know about fresh fruits and vegetables. They don't know. They just know what's at the corner store, what mom is preparing. So increasing education is important, because once you start young, people will make healthier decisions as adults, right? So we have helped children that are overweight or obese tend to become overweight or obese adults. So we have to start when they're younger. And it's important to teach. You can teach a child anything, so we must incorporate that.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah. This is definitely an important conversation. And of course, the conversation only gets better when we have the audience chime in. So just want to take this time to quickly recognize everybody who is in the house. So Kenny says she's late. Girl, you're never late. Just being here is enough. So greetings from to you in the Bahamas. And if there's anything different that you experience there in a different country, shout us out. Put it in the comments. We got Tangerine in the house. She says, hey, BPS fam. Hey, Noni. Tangerine definitely knows all about health and what you put in your body and pays attention to that. So we're excited to have you too, Tangerine. She says, great topic. Yep. I love discussing health and fitness for our people. The fact that Coca-Cola started out actually having cocaine inside it and still is a successful company baffles me. Somebody got some money on that end, pulling some strings. Oh yes, eating healthy is a form of self-care. I logged that up here and in here too when you drop that, Noni. That's very powerful. And last but not least, I think
you can
get into it. Did I?
Oh, a tool. You can just so that we can acknowledge. Yeah.
Yes, Louisiana roots, baby. Nice,
Yeah.
Tool. Nice. That
Oh,
and French.
wow.
It's such, yeah. I love the name, and I love exactly where you're from, especially all the food. So, Noni, my question to you is: you talked about usually overweight kids become overweight adults. I sometimes struggle myself and know people who struggle, who are just like, look, this is how I've always been.
Right.
This looks like how it's just how I'm gonna ride this out. And I say that also personally. You talked earlier about gaining the quarantine 15. Girl, no, it was the COVID-19, and I know exactly where those pounds go. And
Right.
sometimes I'm in a space where I'm seeing results and things are happening, but sometimes I'm in a space where it's like, this is just must be what it is,
You don't
because
feel
ain't nothing
motivated.
working. Yeah. So what
Right.
kind of advice would you give that person in that space that just doesn't see hope of any kind of change happening?
Sure. So I want to address the first thing you said. You know how people say diabetes runs in my family, high blood pressure runs in my family, right? So I would say that habits run in families, right? Good habits and not so good habits, right? So we learn things about finances from our family. We learn about communication from our family. We learn about eating from our family. So we need to break those, what do they call them? Generational curses, and start some new ones. And that's related to nutrition and wellness. So we can't blame that on our mama and daddies, right? We're grown now. We get to make those decisions. So people that are feeling a little less motivated, I think it's like that with everything in life. You just get right back on the horse. You don't beat yourself up. I took that can of Coke about a week ago. I drank that can of Coke and I felt really bad about it. And it didn't taste the same. It didn't taste the same as it usually did. So I think also making eating and health and wellness fun. Usually people buy the same groceries, they cook the same meals. So I always advise people buy some new things at the grocery store, try new recipes, right? Everything's on the web now. So being intentional is the way to go.
I think sometimes, I was just gonna, I think sometimes it's just not easy when it's not a part of, like, there's certain things that I can do very well, the whole acting thing and putting stuff together, whatever. But when it comes to the food thing, I can't do that on my own. I literally will sit there and just be like, which is so weird because my whole family cooks, but majority of the people are overweight, that homeschool. Right. But I didn't grow up. I wasn't allowed to be in the kitchen. So so good and bad. I didn't really, I can cook, but I don't know how to cook all that other stuff, right? But again, I go back to the same thing, which is, how do we figure out what to eat that's really going to help us? Because 1 minute it's, eating broccoli. Oh, but now you're cooking it too long and it doesn't do anything for you. But I'm eating broccoli and you're saying that it's not nutritionist, you know what I mean? And so it's really, trying to understand what it is that we need to be doing and making it a program. So it's not as simple as everybody says.
Right. We gotta, so if you're a person that struggles with recipes, what to buy to store, what's healthy to cook, what's good for your body type, what's good for your blood type, what your health markers are, that's when you reach out to a nutritionist. That's what we're here for. So I happen to enjoy grocery shopping. I happen to enjoy cooking. It's a drag for some people, right? It's therapeutic for me. So that's when you reach out for help, when it becomes a barrier for successful living in terms of taking care of yourself. We do that if we were told we have low vitamin D, if our hair was falling out, if we broke our ankle. We need to do that more with the foods we're putting in our body. We only get one heart, we only get one body, so we have to do the best thing for it.
So I got a two-part question.
Sure.
The first part of the question, let me get the question out, then you can answer it any way you want to get out. But the first part of the question has to do with the food pyramid. I remember reading a while ago that the food pyramid had nothing to do with nutrition. It was just a bunch of lobbyists saying what food was the best. And now there's multiple types of food pyramids. So what food pyramid would you suggest Black people use, or in the order of best to worst? Hold up, let me finish. And the second part is, nowadays you have a lot of people going on paleo diet, they're doing intermittent fasting, they're doing, so in that regard, what would you suggest for people, Black people, with regards to how they should eat?
Sure. Well, in terms of diets, I'm not a proponent of diets. I'm a proponent for mindful eating, and slow and steady wins the race, and good habits. Because when you do that yo-yo dieting, if you don't continue for the rest of your life, you're going to be right back in the same space. You might lose that weight for that wedding dress, for that prom, for that trip on the beach. But if you don't continue, it's going to come back on.
But what about stuff like intermittent fasting, when you can eat? It doesn't matter the food, but the time period matters. Would you suggest that with regards to Black people?
I would need to see. So I think that people do not think of nutrition as a science. I think that people don't taking supplements seriously. If the bad combination of supplements, you can get sick. I think that a nutritionist needs to be consulted before people make these decisions. I think people are reading things on the internet and they think if one size fits all, and nutrition is a science. So once that is educated to the community, I think people will take it more seriously, and then we will have more healthier outcomes. In terms of the food pyramid, I think it also depends on if you're a man, woman, right? You're saying just for Black people in general, what are the things they should eat? I think we should shop at the perimeter of the grocery store, not so much in the inside. The outside is where the healthy stuff is. Water all day, green stuff all day, fruits and veggies, less sugar and processed foods. Things that you don't understand what the words mean on the back, stay away from it.
Okay. There you go. I know we have some questions and stuff in here. I'll let Nora, do what she does. So.
All right. You are preaching over there, Noni. My goal is to really listen to what you say and do it. But that is awesome. Okay, so we have got Kathy in the house. How you doing, Kathy? She says, she starts off, so why do the healthiest foods tend to sometimes be more expensive? It feels as though something she continues
right here.
Something else, thank you, Christy, something else behind the scenes is playing a bigger part in our Black and brown lives. Would you agree?
I definitely do, but in terms of financial assistance and being on the WIC programs, there are farmers market access for people. The WIC program gives moms farmers market coupons, and I used to work for the WIC program, and you would be surprised the amount of coupons that would come back to the office. People wouldn't utilize them. So farmers are taking food stamps, and sometimes people don't know that. So most towns now have farmers markets, so checking out what your city has, what your county has, and using your money that way, it goes longer as opposed to a grocery store.
All right.
What would you say when Black people, because I speak about, I speak to a lot of Black people, they say that healthy food tastes nasty, and you also cook, so because taste comes from either fat or sugar. Everything else is sort of, so what would you tell people to make their food taste better, or do they just have to change their palate to make?
You have to change your palate, because there's so many adult picky eaters. It's just not the babies anymore. And I think with myself and others, you have to give it a try, or there are other substitutes. Try each month to try something different from the grocery store. You'd be surprised the things that we like and we can find.
When it comes to kids, though, when I was growing up, my mother cooked, my father cooked, and you ate what was served.
What was there. Or you couldn't get up from the table. I couldn't get up from the table. Yeah,
nowadays, it seems like they're asking the kids what they want for dinner as opposed to telling them this is what you're having for dinner.
That's a whole nother parenting. That's not nutrition. That's parenting, isn't it?
That's parenting. But how would you suggest to get fruits and vegetables into these kids'
Sure.
lives.
Sure. So that's part of the shopping experience. I know when my daughter was younger, I would take her to this grocery store with me, but it couldn't be around nap time, or it couldn't be when I was frustrated in the evenings after work. So it was always around planning and having conversations with her and including her. And sometimes you don't feel like being bothered when it's late. You just want to eat and get them in bed. But having her in the kitchen and having her as part of that conversation, her palate is strong and varied, and her nutrition knowledge is because of that. I started when she was younger. So I think that will help.
I think it's true, and we'll get to the next question from Tool. But I think it's interesting that I have a relative that lived with his mother, and all he ate was fruits and vegetables. He didn't like all of that crazy stuff. You know what I mean? The candy and all that. Then when he started visiting the other parent, now all of a sudden it's, because she would never let him have anything at all. I think now it's just becoming this whole and I think because he was raised on the good stuff, that's what he loved. But now I don't know. You know what I mean? Now I don't know.
Right.
So, but I think it is true. Janora, did you have a question before we get to the next question?
Well, just to piggyback off what you were saying, Christy, I've seen the studies with babies, and you put a carrot in front of a baby and you put an Oreo in front of the baby, and the baby goes for the carrot because the baby doesn't know what an Oreo is. It is the natural stuff. It is, right. I think when we do introduce the youth and the kids and the babies to these unhealthy things that have these, like you talked about earlier, these connections of addiction that are thrown into the food, that's when it changes our natural palate. But naturally, yeah, Christy, we do, I think, naturally, as our bodies do gravitate to what's real instead of what's
not real.
Do
you all find in your conversations with your contemporaries that people are speaking about nutrition and wellness, or more so? I feel like people talk more about exercise.
Exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they go they're in tandem. So why do you think that part is left out?
I always,
because we don't want to make the change.
I don't know if it's the want to make the change, or we just didn't grow up in a space. When you think about groceries, you think about budgeting and finances. It's like there's a connection between food and finance that we really don't talk about in the Black community, because the stuff that we need to buy in order for us to eat healthy comes with a cost, like Kathy was asking earlier. So we tend not to talk about food, because when you go down that road, most of us are just buying what we can eat. We're not buying food to survive. We're just buying what's in front of us. If it's a ramen noodle and some rice and some eggs, and people, and I know, like you said, a lot of people don't know that there are these vouchers that people can get for farmers market and things of that nature. So maybe we do need to talk more about, but there's a connection between food and money, and that's sort of a sticky situation when it comes to Black people, because we tend not to talk about how we don't have money publicly to one another.
You think Black people think that nutrition is important, or you think we're coming around?
I think we think that it's important, but what our understanding of what's important is different. So like the Black people that I've spoke to who don't know much about food will say, oh yeah, we need to eat like we used to eat, like Big Mom and them used to feed us, even though they don't know that Big Mom and them, some of the stuff that they fed us was bad too, because they're basing it off of McDonald's, Dorito, and high C diet, as opposed to something being cooked in a pot for long hours of time. They think that's healthier, but they don't know that the ingredients is what makes it healthier. So it's a process. It's just getting there, but it's not.
I'll tell you that much, because everybody living into their 80s and all that, and then you see people in our generation who are dying in their 40s and 50s, and you know what I mean.
60s,
so
yeah.
I mean, but don't get me wrong, they all had high blood pressure and all that kind of stuff, but they still lived to be 70, 80, almost 90. Go ahead, Joanna.
Well, I think what the difference is what they put in the food. Like you might have ate a pig back in the day, but the pig you raised, or the pig, you got down the street from the butcher, versus the pig here, or the cow here, or the chicken here, that is full of all these hormones. So I think that's the biggest difference. It's not necessarily it's what they've done to our food in this contemporary age.
Denora, if you think about it, I'm 49 years old. So if I think about the 80s, how much more food is in the grocery store now than when I was a little girl? It's tons of snacks, tons of different types of chickens, different sizes. It's just real crazy. And it's more of what's not good.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
more. It's more.
Janora, did you want to say anything before we get to this question real quick?
No, I definitely want to spend some time with the folks that are in the house as well that we just can't see on the screen, but we feel the love through it. And Tool has a question. He says, in your research, have you found that red dye in the chips has caused excitability in kids, especially 5 to 15 minutes after ingestion?
Wow, I haven't found that, but I have found that allergies in food have caused certain children to have ADD. So some children, after they have had an allergy test, they have found that they're allergic to this or that, and that's how their attention deficit came to be. So I haven't done research particularly on red dye.
It is interesting. When I went to Europe, we'll get to the next one. Steve said something to Janora, but it's interesting how in Europe they got rid of all of those dyes, the red dye, the I think it was the green, the orange, the yellow, because they were saying that they're all can cause cancer, and they don't use those dyes in Europe. And it was interesting to eat the foods in Europe. Even the strawberries tasted way different. I had to get used to it because I was there for a couple of weeks. I had to get used to eating that food versus what we have here, because they don't have all that processed stuff in their candy or in their regular foods. Steve said to Janora, didn't you get married on a beach? You can eat what you want. Just go swimming. Laugh out loud. And
Steve,
then go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I was just going to answer Steve's question. Yes, I did get married on the beach. But Steve, we are talking nutrition going along with movement. So yes, I can swim, but I also need to make sure that my fork is healthy AF.
Yes. You want to read this one?
And so Kathy, this was part of the original conversation. And Kathy says, for those that need financial assistance with food purchases, their money has to last, and the healthier foods are more costly. Their food stamps, for example, has to last an entire month for some families. So yeah, that is a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Steve had another good one about rice, which is a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Steve says,
go ahead.
I love rice, but I learned that it is really bad for you. I heard the same thing, Steve. What is a good substitute for rice? And can you just clarify or demystify this whole rice conversation, Noni?
Well, I think in terms of rice, it's individual. It's not for everyone. What type of rice are you eating? Is it a grain? Is it white rice? How are you digesting it? Are you digesting it? So I think it's individual and how much you're eating. So if your body's telling you it's not good, we need to listen to that as well, right?
I thought you were talking specifically about like the arsenic, because there was like a study done recently that there's a lot of arsenic in rice, especially brown rice, because it gets absorbed in the husk. You're better off eating white rice, but white rice has less nutrition than brown rice.
Or organic rice, because the process is different. So it's all about the processing. So a lot happens to foods before it gets to our grocery store and before it comes to our kitchen. And I don't think we're thinking about that either. What happens from the farm, what happens from the chicken plant to the truck, to the plane, to the grocery store, to the processing, to us. So there's a lot that happens which our bodies react to. So rice is one of them, but in terms of substitutes, couscous is good. Any other type of grain, I don't know if you guys are familiar with quinoa is good. So those things are good, and they do fill you up, and they are healthier.
Keep going. Keep going. I got two quick questions after you're done.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Steve.
But I'm like quinoa and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I mean, I do now. I eat it now, but for Black folks, now let me go on and get that.
We weren't exposed to that till we got jobs and stuff. I don't know when it came, but I didn't have it as a little girl.
I did, but not as a little girl. So, two quick questions. One, can you talk about organic foods? because I read something about a food can be grown organically, but when it's shipped, it doesn't have to be shipped organically. It can have preservatives in the shipping. That's one thing. And the second part is, can you explain to people how addictive sugar is? Because I've read this whole book about how sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
Right.
And what
And
it does
I think someone referenced that earlier. One of the listeners, she compared that to Coca-Cola, something she said. Then one of the listeners
Oh,
said
no,
that
she
earlier.
said that. She said she was surprised that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it.
Yeah, sugar is very much addictive. It causes so many different reactions in our body. Not only that, the weight gain causes inflammation in our bodies. It can cause depression because you're up and then you're down. It can change the temperatures of our body. It changes the nutritional value of foods. I know my grandmother put sugar in everything, spaghetti, cabbage. I mean, her coffee was white by the time she drank it. It was
Greens.
like sugar. Yes, greens, everything needed sugar. So everything. That's how we grew up. And so when you are young like that and that's how you eat, that's what you're accustomed to, you have to make that intentional change. But sugar is definitely a silent killer. We have diabetes, right? We have obesity. We have all of those things, not to mention how it affects us mentally. So sugar is something that we should always have in moderation, just like salt. People give salt a bad rap, but sugar, they are brother and sister, sister and sister.
Wow.
In terms of brother and brother, and right. In terms of organic foods, it's how the food is processed. That's part of it, but how it's grown as well. So we don't know, like if a food, corn is organic, if it is transported.
Oh no, I wanted to hear
it.
this.
Oh no, right. Yeah, because you hear the same corn gets a bad rap just like rice does.
She's back.
It's like, what's the truth?
Right. Okay, please tell this, because I'm on this whole organic kick. I've been on the kick for about 4 years. So is it really? Probably longer, actually, probably like 2 years. But I just want to know. Yeah, so please.
When you read the food labels, sometimes it doesn't say 100% organic. Right? Some are partially organic. It's not fully organic. So you have to know how to read. Food labels are important in terms of health and wellness as well. They shouldn't be difficult to read. So if something is 100% organic and is stamped by the USDA, which some people don't trust, that's when it's supposed to be organic.
You know
what? What you say about corn?
Oh, wait, hold on one second. We should do a program where you are teaching us how to read the back of
Let's
the
do
label.
it. Let's
because
do it.
That's something that I'm like,
it can be intimidating. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry. Abdul had some question about corn.
No, I wanted you to finish your thought. You were saying something about corn and then you got cut off. So I wanted to know what was the rest of that. Corn had what in it?
I was talking about if corn was organic, what the process should be like. And Kathy said that humans don't digest corn. Some people say that with corn, and some people say that with nuts, that it's difficult for people to digest. And you're smiling, Abdul. Why?
The word nuts makes me laugh.
God.
You asked.
Okay. What time is it?
Right. Oh, Abdul is 12 years old. You're the smartest 12-year-old I know, Abdul. And Kathy came with a awesome suggestion here in the comments. She says, I believe our primary care physicians should have everyone attend a nutrition class, just like when we have annual physicals. Education is knowledge. We eat better when we know better. Also, in terms of the sugar conversation, Kathy says, some say they add sugar to sometimes combat the acidity in foods. At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Right. So when you guys go to your primary care physician, do they give you information regarding nutrition?
No, never. Ever.
Well,
they do take care of you. Go ahead.
Well, mine would be if when I get my blood work done, if something is high, I would get a nutritional link to something within the website.
Just a link,
healthy.
but
Yeah.
no follow up with you. How you doing?
Because my blood pressure was a little high. I mean, it won't like, I need to be on medication, but it was typical. I still eat the swine and love it blood pressure level.
So we need to pull them to the carpet regarding these things, because that's all part of your wellness.
Yeah. And maybe the reason I let it slide is because I knew I still like bacon and was going to eat it. So maybe it was just an intentional denial of some things she might have suggested to change, but I knew I might have not been in a mental space to do so.
Right. I think that we need to start taking it more seriously, and then challenging the people that we love to take it more seriously. Right. So we challenge people that are in toxic relationships. Right. We say, girl, right.
Yeah.
People to live their dreams. How are we going to do all of these healthy things if we are feeding ourselves trash?
And I just think it also comes down to, the lives, rich people can have somebody cook their food or deliver their food or have their food services and all that kind of stuff. You're dealing with people who are working, not a 9 to 5, but, a 9 to 10, and then coming home and having something else that they got to do. And then it's like, I'm going to get the first thing that I can get, which is something quick, so I can handle this other business that I got to do. And they keep it moving. It becomes the cycle. And so the question is how do we change that cycle, or having the time to really cook, or the desire to cook, because we're so busy. And I know that it's something that we have to make a priority, but I think sometimes it just comes down to I have no clue. And I'm actually speaking from experience, because really at the end of the day, I mean, I have, I do a meal prep. I have somebody delivers food. They're going to be here in about 20 minutes. They deliver the food. But I had to do that because I was buying food at home, not eating it, because I'm auditioning all day, get home late, or right before I get home, I can't survive. I need to grab something quick. And I was just grabbing something from a fast food place or whatever. This was years and years and years ago. But, it becomes the cycle. I just think we're saying all of this stuff, but if there is no actual plan, like a list to give somebody and say, this is what you should be doing or can be doing, I think we're still going to be in the same place of everybody just talking.
So more education, right? Not just talking about high blood pressure and diabetes, talking about food labels, how to be mindful. So it sounds like, Christy, you decided to make a change. So I'm not going to do it because I don't have time. I don't like it, but I'm going to make this choice and I can pay for it. So that was your mindful way of taking control, and you exercise self-care.
Right, but
you
I have
the resources, right?
To do it,
right?
But somebody else doesn't have it, Or like I look at my mom and I'm like, come on, Mom, you got to stop eating this BS. You got it, but it's just the mindset.
Just the mindset, right?
Yeah,
I think people, like with anything, if I start next week, if I start next month, then it becomes 6 months. If I start January 1st, I start January 31st. And then it just becomes a cycle, like Christy said. So it's really something that has to be innate and that is important to you. So I think people think having high blood pressure is no big deal. We'll just pop this pill and we'll just eat whatever we want. I have friends that do that. And that's hard to see.
No, so what would you suggest people read or look up or investigate to combat some of these food problems you're talking about? And also tell us about what you got going on with regards to your children's projects that you have, or your nutritional projects you have going on.
Sure. There's a nutritional healing book. It's a health and wellness book. It's called Nutritional Healing. I always recommend that because it gives the ins and outs of vitamins, minerals, what our body needs, how do we get it, what to buy, if your hair is falling out, if you're having some anxiety, all of those things. It lets the community know that food affects all things in us. And I think that's what the community doesn't know.
Right.
We are just thinking of food as satiating us for these hours, and then in a few hours it's time to eat. But what is it doing 7 days from now with what we ate that Sunday, right? And what does that food that we ate on Sunday, what does that do 6 months from now? I don't think we look at it as a cycle, right? Everything, it starts with what we put on our forks. In terms of what I'm working on now, I am working on an animation for a character that's based off of me when I was 10 years old. Her name is Noni, and she has superpowers to change the world, to teach kids 8 to 12 years old about health and wellness, positive body image, positive self-esteem, exercise, nutrition, reading food labels, bullying. So just having a well-rounded, confident child leads for success. And I'm excited about it. It should be out in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to have a virtual online platform where I just cast a little girl. Her name is Eilette Spence, and she's going to interview kids about different topics. And we'll have adult professionals who will be the superhero of that particular discipline and teach children about health and wellness. And I hope that with us teaching the young children, the next generation will be healthier, because we're not doing well.
Beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that, Noni.
Thank you. Now, I would love to come back to teach you guys about food labels.
And where can they reach you? If anybody wants to reach out to you for your services or for your website?
My website is We Are Healthy AF. And my social media platforms are Black Girls Eat. There you go, my Instagram, We Are Healthy AF. And that's also my website.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I would love to see, and I don't know if you know about like the Budgetnista. I don't know if you've ever seen her.
Love her. Yes.
And what I love about her is, she gives out those free seminars, and then after that, you got to pay for them. Like she just offers them. I love that. And I'm definitely not saying that you should do anything for free, but I think about her and how she gives and how she makes so much money because she gives. But I would love to see, even for myself, who mostly eats fruits and vegetables all the time, but understanding nutrition a little bit more. And I think it's just because I don't make it a priority. I don't have the time. So I would love to understand labels, why I should eat organic. How do we know if it's really organic? Should I be eating that chicken? You know what I mean? Or is it all bad? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think nutrition is important, and basing it off of like people who might have diabetes versus heart attacks versus, strokes versus whatever the case may be. But I think what you're doing is wonderful, and I'm looking forward to it more. Yeah.
I actually got a question for the three of you. So y'all know my mom ain't Black. So growing up in my household, because of her heritage and where she came from, what you fed your family was really important in terms of the type of food, what the cuts of meat. She went to a butcher. She didn't go to this. She went to So when it comes to Black people, specifically Black women, is there something there that's going on? Because I hear a lot of Black women our age talk about, I don't know, they don't even know how to cook.
I think we're chasing the bag in our dreams, and that's what's getting lost. I think that's what's happening.
I agree. And I do know how to cook, just so you guys know. I do know how to cook.
Yeah.
It's just that I focus on the acting and everything else I got going on. I do on my, on the food stuff. I'm like, ugh, all of that. It just drives me nuts.
You think it's chasing the bag? Because like this other train of thought is my family's nutrition is.
Abdul, that takes time. But that takes a lot of time. Like I'm not accusing you of anything. I literally just. No, I'm saying it takes time and effort. So it depends on what's important to you.
Got it.
So it's like, as women, we got to do both, and you got to take care of your mental health. You got to cook, you got to clean, you got to do it, all these things. So we're like later for the food right now. We're going to have somebody deliver it. We got to do these auditions. I got to do these podcasts. I got to do this animation. That'll come later.
Yeah, go ahead, Janelle. I'll let you answer because I want to piggyback on that.
I apologize. I'm not quite sure what the actual question was.
The question was: is it cultural? Is it cultural? The fact that this new age idea that like people don't even want to even learn how to cook, like this idea, but in different cultures they look at food differently. Like the Asian culture, the Hispanic culture, the way they approach food is like.
I think Black people do too. I think Black people, I mean, I look at all my aunts and everybody from Ohio and stuff like that. Like they.
So is it just a new age thing? Is just
maybe Generation X, maybe Generation X.
Yeah, because my mother, I think it also comes from maybe the broken home thing. I'm sorry, Janora, I ended up jumping back in. My apologies. But I think it's, they had a 2-parent home, and all of my aunts, even if they did work, they still made sure that the food is on the table by the time everybody got home. By the time my mom, which those were her sisters, my mom is way younger than that. Like they're way older than my mom, her sisters. And she was more of being she was single, she was working, she was trying to go to school, she's raising 2 kids, and we had to fend for ourselves. And I think there's part of that whole thing where got missed, where I wasn't taught how to do all of these things. My mother was about go after your dream. You know what I mean? And that's what I watched my mom do, as opposed to my other family who, they weren't out all the time, working all the time. They would, after work, they come home, food was ready by 6 o'clock. Everybody ate, blah, blah, blah. I think it's that more than.
But I was reading like years ago, it might have been 20 years ago. It might have been when I was in high school. I read this book, Shahrazad's book, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. And in that book, she talks about nutrition and now the importance of how our community forsakes nutrition. She was talking specifically to Black women, but I'm just saying our communities complete together, but they forsake nutrition for all these other ancillary reasons, like you said, chasing the bag or what have you. And I just wanted to know if it's like that a real thing, or is it just?
I think every situation is different.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Noni. I don't think one generalization is going to sum up a whole culture and how they eat and how they celebrate food. Because my upbringing, all last at the end of episode where we gave our moms the This Week and BPS Person of the Week. I talked about I came from a cooking family and my mama can throw down, and that's still nothing compared to how her sister can throw down. And we grew up with a grandma that was every Sunday dinner at her house. And what was even better about that is they grew up on the farm. So I saw the cow. We still eat chitlins, but shoot, that was the pig that was in the pig pen last, month. Or I remember breaking pole beans with my grandmama on the porch. They grew everything they ate, and we ate good. And me not knowing how to cook so much is one product of being the 4th child. So I didn't have to take care of nobody. I feel like I was spoiled. My mama was a housewife for quite some time. So yes, the key was to have the meal on the table. And because there were 4 kids, we weren't going out to eat. And my mama was a home economics teacher. So we did grow up with this whole food pyramid, nutrition, and there was always something green. And again, that's also because we grew up with a fresh garden. So food is just definitely rooted into my family. And but I know that my experience is different than your experience, Christy, and maybe your experience, Noni. So that's a tough one size fits all.
And again, it was like yours. It's just the difference was that it was my grandparents and my aunts and all that kind of stuff. My mother just had a completely different, outlook. She was about go after your dreams. You know what I mean? So, and I appreciated that, as opposed to my dad, who was like, "Yeah, you're not gonna catch a man because you're not in there cooking." And I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, I can't believe you said that to me." You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'll definitely acknowledge that I think for our parents' generation and their parents' generation, it was more out of necessity versus now we do have resources to have a chef or do whatever. And because we do have the resources, or there's a good portion of our population that does, I feel like that goes back to our original conversation with you, Noni, where, okay, we can't use the excuse of I got all these jobs, I can't do it, I can't afford good food. No, you can. I have so many conversations. We recently got a Peloton, and I feel like I bring up the Peloton every episode. I
love it.
But for folks who might not understand, they might be like, why you spend all that money on that bike? And it's where you put your priorities, because you spend your money on what you want to spend your money on, and your time on what you want to spend your time on. So how do we make that a priority? So going back, bringing it all back to you, Noni, your work is important, and we appreciate you.
So having wellness accountability partners, right? We have it with goals with other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And Janora made me get a Peloton bike, so it comes in 2 days. It took me 2 months to get it. They on back order, but I get my Peloton bike, so I'm gonna be in there like holding each other accountable, like So
love it.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap everything up unless anybody has anything else they want to bring up before we get to our person of the week. No.
Just another thank you to Noni.
Oh,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. So Noni, we at the end of our show, we always like to honor people who are in the community of doing certain things. I'm gonna make it brief. I'm not gonna give too much just because we're way over our time, but we like to honor someone who's doing amazing things. And with that being said, I don't know what just happened, but with that being said, we want to give a shout out to a guy in Africa. His name is John, I think it's Amanamum, a graduate of fine arts and industrial arts from the University of Iowa, I think. So he created prosthetics for darker skin tones, and it's absolutely amazing. That's not what he does for a living. He went to a fine arts school and he learned how to make these prosthetics. Right now, at the moment, he has over 200 customers in 2 years. I know that his brother at some point in time lost his hand, and that's what prompted him to create this. And he only charges like $111 for the prosthetics. So we want to give a shout out to our person of the week. So yeah, that's it. That's what we have.
So when your mama lose her foot because of the sugar, you can go to him and get a foot.
I am so mad at you for saying that. Yeah. That was so rude. So bad. I know. So with all that being said, you guys, we will see you next week. Thank you for everybody joining in. Yes. Yes, please say
Layla.
it. Layla, no. That's what I was going to say. Oh.
Well, yes. Two things. Yes, it is Layla's birthday. Layla, you guys, is my wife.
Happy birthday!
And she is celebrating today. So definitely a shout out to her. And a shout out, I said our BPS person of the week last week, talking about our moms. That was actually the week of Mother's Day. Last week, it was actually Abdul sharing about his book. And so I just wanted to show that I ordered it, and you guys can do the same thing. It's available on Amazon. Ignorance is contagious. Yes. Although he had some 12-year-old jokes and was a little bit ignorant at the end, we still love him. And I just wanted to show you that I followed through. And I can't wait to do the same for you, Noni.
Thank you.
Yes.
When you gonna make me a sandwich, Malene Robinson?
I can make you a sandwich, yes. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Right.
Somebody said Abdul is crazy. Somebody said.
Yes, Steve, he absolutely is. Abdul is crazy.
Yes, he is.
Get the book, Steve. Get the book.
Definitely check out his book. We thank you again for joining us. We will definitely see you guys next week. And that's about it. All right. You guys have a good night. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next week's our last show before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't going to mention it now because I want people to, but it's all good. What were we going to say? I was going to wait.
Oh, sorry. Well, then just kidding. Just kidding. See y'all next week.
We are going to take a little bit of a hiatus, but we are going to be here next week. We will continue to keep doing some kind of follow-ups. You know how, I don't know if you guys remember how I was doing the Black people ish in the very beginning, Black people shit in the very beginning, which were these 2 to 3 minute little vlogs. So we are going to continue to keep doing that from all three of us with our own little spin to them. So you'll still be able to see us and have some joy in seeing what's going on in the community. We won't totally lose you for the next month and a half or 2 months. And then we'll be back after that. But we'll definitely talk about it next week and then go from there. So
enjoy your break.
You're gonna love the title of my new show.
No, we're not calling it that.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
We're not calling it that.